So welcome to week 3 of the 50 stitches crochet along, and this week we're doing the camel stitch. So you can see I've got 2 squares here, and that's because we can do the camel stitch in 2 different ways. I'm going to show you how to do both. So this coral one, this is the easiest way to do it. You see it has this lovely ribbing texture, so it's great for cuffs of jumpers, sweaters, hats, things like that. So it's double-sided and the texture is on both sides. The other way is this one. You see the ribbing is much closer, it's much more textured, but it's all on one side. So the back side is plain and all that ribbing is on the front. The camel stitch is made using half double crochet, and it's all done in the 3rd loop. So I will show you how to get into the 3rd loop of the half double crochet in a moment. So to get started, we need a 4.5mm hook, and we're going to chain 32. Okay, I'll just zoom in so you can see what's what. I've started mine already just so you don't have to sit and watch me do the first row. So to start, you're going to make your first half double crochet in the 4th chain from your hook, which is the 29th foundation chain. Remember that turn counts as a stitch, and then you do 29 more half double crochet along the entire row. So that stitch in the 4th chain, that's actually your 2nd, and the turning chain counts as your 1st. And then you just do half doubles all the way down your foundation. So including that turning chain, you'll have 30 stitches in total. So I think I'll just zoom in a bit more. There we go. So then we want to turn chain 1, we're going to do the alternate turning chain, and we want the height of a double crochet, which means you're making 2. Height of the, so it's the alternate double crochet, sorry, turning chain. I'll put a link to the video to show you how I do this in the description if you haven't done it before. Oops, there we go. And I'm just going to pop a stitch marker in there. So this counts as a stitch. Okay, the turning chain always counts as a stitch. And for this, for the half double, on the ends we want to go through the back 2 loops for your turning chain and for your final stitch in the row. Now for the rest of this stitch we're going to go into the 3rd loop. So your 1st loop is here on the front, your 2nd loop there, and the 3rd loop on the back there. Okay, and the reason it has 3 loops is I'll show you now. So to create the half double, yarn over, go into that 3rd loop, pull through, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. And having those 3 loops creates that 3rd loop. Okay, and so we're going to do all the way down. So just grab my stitch markers, it'll be easy to show you where all these loops are. So I'll zoom in a bit more to show this. First loop, right on the front. 2nd loop is there on the top. And you turn over, your 3rd loop is there. Now, if I just turn around, this is what a normal stitch would look like from the front. And you just have those top 2 loops, that's what you're used to. But the half double has this extra loop on the back. So because we've turned, that 3rd loop actually looks like it's on the front. No. So it's right down there. But we're going to be doing all this entire square in that 3rd loop at the back. And this is how you create that double textured square at the side. So yarn over through that 3rd loop only. Okay, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And as you can see, it's making that gap pull up there. Don't worry, that will tighten itself up as we go through the row. And that is all we're going to do, all down the whole row. And through 3. So excuse me my tension. This is a really easy stitch to do, and it has great texture really easily. Half double is one of my favourite stitches because you can have so much fun playing about with the loops and the effects it creates. And actually, if you start changing colours as well, that creates a really lovely effect. So for this square, we're going to be doing 15 rows in total. Remember, your foundation row doesn't count as a row, only your rows of half double. And that means your border is going to be really easy as well, and you just single crochet 2 inside of every half double. So this stitch is a breeze after that bobble stitch from last week. I know a lot of you had trouble with the colour change and keeping the tension. This one is an absolute breeze. And that's all we do for the entire square, just row after row, just half doubles into that final loop. So I'll just go down the rest of this row and show you which loops we're going to be doing our final stitch in, because we do need to stabilise the edge, because doing it in this just a single loop, you get this pulling. As you can see, the rest down the row, it tightens up as you go, but the edge one would do this if we did it in just a single loop. So we do need to go into 2 loops just to give the edge a bit of support, ready for the border. So every single row will have 30 stitches in total. Oops. Okay. And this should turn out the same size as all your other squares as well. That's why I got the different hook sizes for different squares, and it's just so they all turn out the same, and so we can fit them together later. As you can see, that third loop is always pretty easy to find. It's not hidden, it's nicely on show for you. I'll just zoom out a bit, it's very close, isn't it? And there you go, you can see that texture is coming through straight away. So what going into the third loop does, it just makes this turn over, these 2 loops to the front, and so it gives that lovely braided effect. So almost at the end of the row. Let's get some more yarn. And one more. Can get a bit fiddly towards the edges. Right, final stitch, and we're going into the turning chain. So I can't actually show you on there, can I? Do apologise. So into the top of the turning chain. turn and it's the alternate chain again, so I'll show you which loops we're going into with this. Okay, so you've got your 3 loops: front loop, middle loop, back loop. For the final stitch of the row and your first, you were going into the top 2, so ignore the front one, and you'll go into the middle and the back one. And that's how we're going to strengthen the sides. Oops, sorry, not the camera. There we go. So that's the only stitch that will go into 2 loops, everything else is in 1 loop. So that's the back, we haven't got any texture there yet. And there's the front, we've got the first braid. And we just carry on the same for every single row into that back loop. And we just carry on, and then we'll get the texture on this side this time. And that is how we create this simple version of it here. So this square. Now for the purple square, if you want it much more ribbing on there, so put the 2 together, you can see the difference. So you got, zoom out, you got quite straight flat ribbing there. On this one it's much closer together and it's far more textured, and of course it's single-sided. Now to do that we alternate between the back loop and the front loop. So what do I mean? I just go back to my turning chain on this one. Actually I don't want to take the turning chain out. Right, so I'm going back to the chain 1. Okay, so on this one, zoom back, we've got the texture on this side. Now if we want to keep the texture on this side, we now want these 2 loops to bend forward, which means we want to go into what is the back loop from the front side. So if we turn it, that means we actually go through the front loop, and that will force the texture onto the opposite side. So you would alternate in rows. So the odd numbered rows you would do crochet in the back loop. For the even numbered rows you would make your stitches in the front loop, and that forces the texture onto one side. So for this, if I'm going to force it onto the front, for this we put the turning chain in the front 2 loops, do that, and then the half double crochet will go in that front loop there, and this will force the texture onto a single side and give you that much closer ribbing effect. So you do the same number of rows whichever way you choose to do it. So it's still 15 rows in total, no matter if you go with the front loop or back loop. But you can create some lovely ribbing textures by playing about with which loop you go into on which rows. So there's no real right or wrong way to do this, it's whichever you prefer. I kind of prefer the this way, to be honest. And if I just turn that over, you can see I've now put the texture in the front, and the back stays smooth. And that's how you do it. So I'll zoom out again. So the difference, although they look like 2 completely different stitches, they're actually exactly the same. We just depends on which loops we're using on each row. So for this square, you use the back loop on every row to create this double-sided texture. For this square, the odd number rows you go in the back, the even numbered rows you you put your half double crochets in the front loop, and that puts all the texture on the front, and you end up with this much closer ribbing effect. And that is all there is to it. So, since this is a bit of a shorter video than usual, I'm going to show you the border in the same one. And we're putting 2 single crochet into the side of every half double. So the top and bottom are easy as usual, just 1 in each stitch. But for the sides, it's 2 single crochet in each, plus don't forget that extra for the corner. So it can be handy to put stitch markers in the side of your doubles. So remember, each rib here, you got 2 rows. It can be hard to find them sometimes, but if you persevere, you'll, well, to be honest, if in doubt, just stab your hook in somewhere. Shouldn't say that, but if you have a doubt, just put your hook in. So I would go with giving it a stretch out can help find your stitches as well. I have to admit, sometimes in this one it can be a bit tough. It might be easier depending which side you go on. So I would put my stitches, I'd probably do there into that side there. So 2 single crochet in there and 2 in there. So then you would have 4 for that rib, and you do that all the way down. As long as you've got 4 in that area there, you're going to be fine. Just try and be consistent with where they go into each rib, and it will turn out just fine. So don't worry about it too much. But just have a little stretch out and the holes will start to appear. So you can see that there's one there. The next rib down, I'd go in there. See that? And so if you are having trouble, just put stitch markers in. Just give it a stretch, find the hole, put the stitch markers in, and then do that down the entire length, and then just do your crocheting as you go and pull the stitch markers out afterwards. It makes it a bit easier, and then you'll end up with edges like this. So as long as you're consistent with where you're putting them into each rib, it will turn out just fine. And then of course, once you've got this single crochet border on, add your interlocking border the same way as we did for the previous squares. So, and then weave in to one of these, whichever way you choose. There's no set order, the squares are going to be joined together, it's entirely up to you. And enjoy. I'll just show that over the top there. I haven't blocked this one yet, but as you can see, it's turning out a very similar size to the others. With blocking, they'll be just absolutely spot on. So that's it from me for this week. Any questions, as always, come over to the Facebook group. I'll put the link in the comments. And I will see you next week. So bye for now.